If you're at the red line, please move up to the yellow line. Red line up to the yellow line. On the dock, watch your hands. The gate's going to close towards you. On the truck, watch your hands, arms, feet, and legs. The right doors are sliding shut. What are we doing?
We're watching Safari.
Asante Sana Warden. As we say here in Harambe, Twin Day, which does mean let's go. So Jumbo friends, welcome to Kilimanjaro Safaris. My name is Kirsten. I'll be your safari guide for today's journey through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. While we are moving, just make sure you're keeping all hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times. And please make sure you're staying fully and completely seated at all times as well. So please no standing. If you do plan on taking any photos or videos, go ahead and get those cameras and phones ready to go. We're not able to stop for every single animal. And even if we do have a chance to stop, those animals certainly don't stop for us all the time either. So just have those cameras ready. It'd be a good idea so you can get some of those pictures you might like to have. It does get a little bit bumpy out in the reserve too, so hold tightly to those devices or any other loose items like hats, Mickey ears, keys, wallets, anything like that. If anything does fall from the truck, we're not able to stop to retrieve those items. But while we are waiting for the all clear from the warden, if you look above your heads, there's an animal spotting guide. Lets you know what some of those animals are that we might see while we're out there today.
Hello, we're going to go on the safari.
Okay, looks like we're going to start to get that all clear. Now, if you don't see an animal right away, don't worry. I'm also your animal spotter, so I'll be giving you an idea about where those animals are and giving you some facts about them. And if you do have any questions, feel free to ask those questions. But the first area we're going to visit is called the Little Ituri Forest. The animals here do rely on their camouflage as a form of protection, though we're not getting a good example right away of that. So these rusty colored animals are bongos. Their horns don't set upward, like they don't stick up like antlers. Instead, they set back a little closer to their head so they don't get stuck in the trees and bushes. On the right, there's an okapi. Okapis do have very distinct stripes on their back legs. It kind of looks like they're wearing zebra pants. But they're not related to zebras at all. They're actually one of the only known relatives to giraffes. They have a prehensile tongue like giraffes do, so that does mean they can grasp at things with their tongue, almost over like a finger. So we are going to make our way. There's a couple different animals that are going to be on the hill up to the right hand side once we go around this curve. One of them is a very large black and white bird. It has a big orange beak. It's just to the side of the top of the hill. That is a saddle-billed stork. They have about a 9-foot wingspan that's just a foot less than that canopy above your heads. Those grayish animals that kind of look like big deer with big old ears, they're laying down. Those are greater kudu. They get to about 55 inches tall at their shoulders alone, and they can still jump about 6 to 8 feet high. Out to the left, if you look to the big cluster of rocks out there, right in front of them there's kind of a softer looking rock. That's a black rhino. You can kind of see its ears sticking out. So black rhino is not a good example again for us to really see it, but the way to tell they're the black rhino usually is because they have pointed upper lips. It's also a prehensile lip, so it's like the okapi tongue. They can grasp at things with it as well. And unfortunately, rhinos are poached for their horns because some people think their horns have medicinal property. No proof that they actually do. They're really made out of keratin, which is what your hair and fingernails are made out of. They don't have any known predators other than humans because of that poaching. Pretty pointless once you figure out it's for something as simple as hair and fingernails. We are now going to leave the Little Ituri Forest. That means we're heading towards the Safi River. And the Safi River is going to be a really great place for us to start looking out for those water-dwelling animals.
Alligators.
And it does look like we're going to get pretty lucky here also. There's some hippos out of the water. So they usually spend most of their time in the water. But if they get a little too cold, they'll come out to sunbathe some. It looks like they're sunbathing right now. They also will come out of the water to look for food. They'll actually travel up to about a few miles to find their food. There's some hippos in the water on the left also.
Look, some of them.
So a group of hippos like this that we're seeing now can be called a bloat. So this is a bloat of hippos. The ones in the water, you can kind of see where their faces are down in the water a little bit. They are able to hold their breath up to about 8 minutes at a time. And they don't typically swim on the top of water. What they do instead is they bounce along the ground underwater. The birds on the island are pink-backed pelicans. They do turn pink, that's how they get that name. Though they don't look too pink right now, it's actually not their feathers that turns pink, it's their skin. And only during mating season. It's almost like they're blushing.
Look at that.
Now still can't have anybody stand, but those of you on the left, there are some more hippos out on the left out of the water. We are going to go ahead and start making our way up to the this bridge up here. We're going to cross over the bridge. Just make sure everybody's still staying fully seated, just no standing, especially here, because on the left those are Nile crocodiles. You can tell they're crocodiles, not alligators, because they have that very toothy grin with their mouth shut still. And they have that forked tooth sticking all the way out. Big. They can actually weigh as much as about 500 pounds. They can also eat half their body weight in just one meal. So it does mean that 500-pound crocodile can eat about 250 pounds worth of food at one time. But they don't eat all the time. Instead, what they do, they have their large meals and then they can go a couple months without eating again. Out to the right-hand side, you're about to see a very large tree. It kind of looks like it's upside down. It does get the nickname the upside down tree, but it's actually called a baobab. Baobab trees are pretty important, especially during droughts. They're made out of a sponge-like texture on the inside that holds a very large amount of water. So animals can pierce the bark with their tusks or horns and helps give them water when there's none in their home at the time. So it does get a second nickname. It can also be called the tree of life. Right up here we are now overlooking the savannah, one of the best views out in the reserve. I do know there's a few of those giraffes just at the bottom of the hill, but there's also going to be a zebra. You look just out to the right hand side. So there are different types of zebras. That one is specifically a mountain zebra. One of the best ways to tell that is because they don't have their stripes going across their belly, but also they have a dewlap skin flap that hangs from their neck. It helps regulate their body temperatures. Only the mountain zebras have that dewlap. Those giraffes are Maasai giraffe. For them, how to tell that they are the Maasai giraffe is because they have those very messy like spots in their pattern, whereas reticulated giraffes have very clean, crisp lines around their spots. Pretty easy to remember if you think of it as messy for Maasai. The cattle with the really big horns are called Ankole cattle. They're one of the only domesticated animals found in the savannah. They were first domesticated by the Watusi tribe, so they can also be called Watusi cattle. They were not used for milk or for meat, they were just a sign of wealth. So the more that you had on your farm, the more wealthy that you were. But on the left, those are African wild dogs. They can also be called African painted dogs because of the very unique markings found in their fur. Let's see if we can get a little bit around this rock so you guys have a better look, unless they start running again. Now they do have a very, very close-knit packs. They even take care of their sick and their old. They'll even regurgitate food to make sure that everybody has the ability to eat. Their packs are also led by a double alpha, so they do have an alpha male and an alpha female. Still to the left, behind the Ankole cattle, those are sable antelope. Their horns do point backwards as a form of protection, so predators won't attack them from behind. You can get a really good look about how big the Ankole cattle horns can get. Just out to the left here. Those horns are basically hollow. They're made out of a honeycomb-like structure on the inside. And so it makes it easier for blood to flow through. As blood flows through their horns, it takes the heat from their bodies and pushes it out through the tips of the horns so they don't get overheated. It's almost like they have portable AC units on the tops of their heads. Pretty good view of another giraffe coming up to the left-hand side, a little bit closer this time. Now, if you do catch a glimpse of its tongue while it's eating, it probably looks like a dark purple-blue color. Their tongues are that color so that they don't get sunburn on those tongues while they're eating up the very high points of the trees. But their tongues can also get to about 18 inches long. So they can reach those leaves up high, but also giraffes can lick their own eyeballs. So there's that cluster of them on the right. A group of giraffes like that can be called a tower. So that's a tower of giraffes, including some calves, some little ones out there, and other zebras. For zebras, their grouping is called a dazzle. So that's a dazzle of zebras. Kind of up on the slope of the hill, those larger kind of grayish animals are white-bearded wildebeest. So wildebeest actually really do like rain. They migrate according to the rain, so they follow the rainstorms for their migration patterns. So even though travel